Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with a Total War Warhammer video. Today we'll be discussing the possible legendary characters for the Demons of Chaos, more specifically those belonging to Tzeentch. So without further ado, let's begin. With Total War Warhammer 3's eventual release, it's all but confirmed that the Demons of Chaos will come alongside it. The Demons of Chaos themselves are essentially 4 different armies, each representing one of the 4 Chaos gods. These demonic legions are each representations of their demonic patron, and thus are more considered to be extensions of the gods themselves. The demons of Tzeentch are inherently magical creatures, even more so than any other demons of chaos. Their very presence can alter the rules of reality, and they can leave trails of multicolored fire and mist behind them as they move. Tzeentch's demons, just like Tzeentch himself, are an enigma, utterly confusing even to the other Chaos gods, but somehow working towards a purpose, or a multitude of purposes. Before we look at these possible characters, it is important to note the following. Tzeentch did indeed have many named champions, but most of the named ones in lore were mortal, and not many demon characters were established. Please bear in mind, for the minor characters we'll be representing them with some generic demonic images. Firstly, we'll look towards the Lord of Change If-Nizilik. Described as a great black eagle, with its beak crooked like a sickle, and its form swelling like a gathering storm as it changes. If-Nizilik has hundreds of eyes that blink from its molted chest, no two sharing a kindred colour, changing size and shape with every passing breath. Flames of white fire flash through the raptor's wings, and its thin bones thicken into clawed arms of a giant. His form is ever-changing, yet still retains his cruel avian shape. The one longer looks at If-Nizilik, the more it seems that he grows, its impossible enormity filling whatever confines it dines within, or perhaps the surrounding area itself expands to accommodate the demon's power. This character was established in a novel, and thus didn't have any models or any official rules. Now, in regards to other minor characters, unfortunately most others would actually be Lords of Change too, and in all honesty they're not really that different from any other generic Lord of Change. So with that, we're going to start looking towards the named characters that had official models and rules. First, we have the Changeling, perplexing prankster, deceiving horror, and Tzeentch's trickster. The Changeling personifies the part of Tzeentch's psyche that is the meddler, the deceiver, and the trickster. He can take the form of other beings, from the tiniest of insects to the most massive of greater demons. Not only can the Changeling mirror the form of another, he can adopt their mannerisms and personalities in such a flawless fashion that even the dark gods can be deceived. On one such occasion, taking the form of a demonette, he stole the silver apples of knowledge from Slaanesh's palace. On the edge of the Dark Prince's territory, he then assumed the form of a plague-bearer and slipped into Nurgle's gardens, only to grow tired of the game and allowing the apples to rot. When Slaanesh discovered the theft, he flew into a rage and sent his armies to receive his lost treasures. This is a perfect example on how the Changeling has caused wars between the Chaos Gods. Naturally, this all plays part of the great game, yet some of his efforts also are just done for random occurrences. One example is when the Changeling sealed the doors of Khorne's citadel while he was away campaigning, forcing the Blood God to shatter his own gates when he returned. The Changeling loves discord, for it breeds opportunity to deceive and dismay like nothing else. His enjoyment begins even before armies clash, impersonating messengers and generals to disrupt strategy wherever possible. When battle begins, the Changeling is known to adopt the shape and skill of the most powerful foe, pounding the enemy to pieces with malicious enthusiasm and borrowed muscle. On the tabletop with his baseline stats, the Changeling wasn't really anything too impressive. In all honesty, his stats were extremely just average. Even his use of magic was also quite limited, where he was considered to be a level 1 wizard in the lore of Tzeentch. That would mean that he would only have access to one spell on the tabletop. However, he did have one special rule that made this character extremely unique, that of Formless Horror, which goes as follows. At the start of each close combat phase, choose an enemy model in base contact with a Changeling. The Changeling may increase any or all of his weapon skills, strength, toughness, initiative, and attack characteristics to match those of the chosen enemy model until the end of that phase. If the chosen model has more than one value for a characteristic, as is the case with mounted models, the Changeling must always choose the highest value. So basically what this meant was that you wanted the Changeling to be up front with your armies, even if you don't generally want this with Tzeentch characters or Tzeentch units as they usually die quite quick. This meant that you could easily look around for enemy blender lords, those geared to be quite killy, and take their stats and be able to try and kill them off. It was because of this special rule that the Changeling was so popular. Imagine having the Changeling being paired up against Archaon and then taking his stats. Now, how could this be translated to Total War Warhammer? I'm imagining that this would be quite difficult to try implement. The character itself should be able to, from a distance at this point I'm imagining, take the form of any enemy that you may be fighting against, maybe for a certain amount of time or until the end of the battle. Obviously, something like this has already been done in terms of Malice and his Slaaneshi friend, but it might be difficult to replicate special skills that other characters may have. More than likely, the Changeling would probably just copy the character and maybe just the baseline stats, so the attack damage, armor and so on, and nothing else. But even then that might be quite interesting. Pair the Changeling with the lore of Tzeentch and then add in some drastic armor values, say for example Archaon, and you've pretty much got the ultimate spellcaster / melee hybrid lord. Next we have the Blue Scribes. There was a time when Tzeentch was the greatest of all the Chaos Gods, and he ruled his brethren through sorcerous might. The other Chaos Gods banded together and shattered Tzeentch into 10,000 pieces. The shards of this god were flung across infinity, and so it was that Tzeentch was weakened. It is said that each shard of Tzeentch shifted form to become a spell or incantation. Even in his weakened state, Tzeentch was aware of these shards and wished to reclaim them, so he created two demons, the Blue Scribes, Tarix and Zerat, tasked with learning every spell in existence. As Tzeentch knew that this quest would require these demons to be more self-aware than others of their kind, he bestowed their intelligence with care, knowing full well enough that they could betray him. Tarix can transcribe the magical syllables of any spell to parchment but cannot read, and Zerat can read his brother's scribblings but cannot understand them. Their quest is that of knowledge, but since magic has continued to multiply ever since Tzeentch was shattered, their quest is never ending. On the tabletop, the Blue Scribes weren't really that great in any form of close combat or range combat, but this can be expected seeing as they were a Tzeentch character. Now what is most surprising is this character was never actually a wizard. The Blue Scribes never had any wizard levels, but were still able to cast spells mainly because of their special rules. First we have the Scrolls of Sorcery, and it goes as follows. An arcane item. The Blue Scribes can cast one spell from one of the 8 laws of battle magic in the Warhammer rulebook during each of its own magic phases. You can choose which law the spell is from, but you must roll a d6 and consult the magic lore to see which spell is cast. So what this means is that every time you try to cast a spell after you picked your chosen lore, you would have a random spell. You never actually got to pick. Naturally, this would be a bit strange in Total War Warhammer, because only one spell at a given time would be kind of, well, bad for a Tzeentch demon, let's be honest about that. But still, I feel that this rule can more or less translate rather well. Instead of having one random spell, what it could be is that every time you start a new battle, you would have a random lore of magic. Now this might be a bit difficult in terms of placing your skill points, but this could be altered in some way. Instead of having your spells where you would be able to pick them, you would have counters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, which you'll be able to then pick where you can put your skill points. And with the easiest option, it would probably have all the spells in the same areas that you would expect them to be. So if you are fully aware of where all the spells for the Lore of Fire, the Lore of Light and so on go, then you more or less know where you can put your skill points. Obviously people will cheat here and just have a little chart next to them, or maybe on their desktop or something, but I feel that this could be a random element. Imagine going into a battle and not knowing exactly what lore of magic you have access to. That sounds kind of cool, doesn't it? And lastly, we have the special rule known as Spell Siphon. Whenever an enemy successfully casts a spell, including bound spells, place a counter next to the Blue Scribes. At the start of your next magic phase, the Blue Scribes can make a channeling attempt for each counter. Once the Blue Scribes have attempted to channel, remove all counters from them. This would be quite difficult to translate into Total War Warhammer, but I'm imagining in a very similar sense to each time the enemy casts a spell, maybe you could get a small portion of what it's worth in Winds of Magic transferred to the Blue Scribes. Just some Winds of Magic that only they themselves can use, not any other spellcaster in your army. I don't know, maybe that sounds a bit too much, but it kind of sounds fun to me. And lastly, we have perhaps the most well-known Tzeentchian demon, Kairos Fateweaver, the Oracle of Tzeentch, the Keeper of the Destiny Scrolls, and the Mocking Watcher. Even Tzeentch dares not enter the Well of Eternity, the vast receptacle of knowledge at the heart of the impossible fortress. Even he cannot be sure of survival within the inky currents of infinity. Still, the Well of Eternity holds great sway over Tzeentch's mind, for it is the one puzzle that he cannot solve, the one mystery he does not know. Curious as he may be, he was not willing to risk himself, so he hurled Kairos, a lord of change, into the foreboding depths of the well. But Kairos was not destroyed. He clawed his way back from the well, after years uncounted within its depths. Kairos can now see things hidden even to Tzeentch. His right head sees possible futures clear as day. No scheme is hidden from its sight, and the infinite possibilities of tomorrow crystallize into infutable fact. While his left head sees the past without petty colorizations of perspective and bias. Both heads are blind to the present. He cannot see time as it passes, only events that are to come or whose time has already lapsed. Kairos's blindness to the present makes him vulnerable to physical attacks. The future does not reveal itself swiftly enough to predict battles to and fro. Nevertheless, Kairos's unique vision allows him to stay one step ahead of adversaries, pitting various assailants against one another in time stream straddling duels. In the area of magic, however, Kairos is unstoppable. He knows every spell in existence, every sigil, sign and quirk of mystical power. Such ability makes him Tzeentch's favourite agent. On the tabletop, Kairos himself was a very unique character, horrible in melee combat but still relatively tough when needed. But as can be expected, it's with magic which made him very unique. His special rules revolving around magic were as follows. Kairos Fateweaver is a level 4 wizard who generates spells in the following unique way. When Kairos generates spells, his left head may choose a total of 4 spells from the Law of Life, Metal, Life, and Heavens. His right head may then choose a total of 4 spells from the Laws of Death, Beast, Shadow, and Fire. Both heads always know all spells from the Law of Tzeentch. Honestly, as horrendously overpowered as this may sound, I'd like to see Kairos having access to every possible spell from the 8 major laws and the Law of Tzeentch, or at the very least 1 or 2 spells from each respective law. Yeah, I know it sounds a bit much, but then again, Kairos is supposed to know every single spell, so I believe it would make sense for him to have as much as possible, to be honest. And obviously, since he is quite weak physically, it's not like it's going to be that much of a problem. All you have to do is get yourself in there and just hack him down to death. But with that, unfortunately, I believe we've covered every possible character that could be a legendary lord in Total War Warhammer 3 for Tzeentch's Daemons. Unfortunately, there's just not really that many characters, and those that were established during the end times were other Lords of Change. We've already covered 2, so it makes no sense to add in more. But what do you guys think? Are there any characters I've missed? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion, shall we? I'm curious to see if you guys think of any other special rules or special characters that I may have missed. So yeah, this should be kind of fun. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various different links to social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord, where you can get in contact with the Great Book team. Also in the description section below is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using our special link and also using our special code, both of which are in the description below, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. Honestly, it's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A special thank you to our patrons Gibraltar LUSC and Bertsche for subscribing to us at our Fane level. Honestly, you guys are super cool. And a big thank you to our patron Edward Hewell for subscribing to us at our King level. Mate, you're super awesome. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.